Hello, hello. Welcome into the room. My name is Krista Witherspoon, your favorite career, business, and personal brand strategist. We have got an amazing conversation ahead of us with one of my absolute favorite people, the one and only Marlyne Pierce. She's going to be in here. She is someone who I absolutely admire because she has I won't say easily, because we know nothing's easy in corporate life, but she's built such a very balanced life, created a scenario as she works inside of the C-suite and with senior level executives. She's built out a very balanced life and a new framework for how women, powerhouse women, total package women, can live and operate that duality between C-suite and your soft life, your lived experience, your personal life, really creating a solid balance so that it is sustainable. Not only is it profitable, but it is sustainable. There she is. She's in the room. Marlyne, welcome into the room. We've got an exciting conversation in store. I've introduced myself. You all know me as the Coach Chris, Krista Witherspoon, your favorite career, business, and personal brand strategist. Marlyne, go ahead and introduce yourself to those who don't know you.
Oh, hello, everyone. I'm Marlyne Pierce, founder at Modern Mogul HQ. I am a venture advisor, a C-suite advisor, and I'm helping women, executive women, to really expand who they are and how they show up in the executive suite so that they can have sustainable leadership, impact, and results. So I'm super excited for the conversation with you, Krista. Let's dive in.
Let's get to it because we've got a lot of ground to cover. So one of the themes that really brought Marlyne and I together is this idea of kind of a mass exodus of corporate professionals, women corporate professionals, looking for better life balance, believing that they've got to exit corporate altogether to build that sort of soft life or a softer version of life that gives them ease and peace of mind. And so while we see a kind of an exodus or just decommissioning from corporate, I actually believe that women don't actually want to leave behind the work that they love to do. I actually believe that they truly are looking for a new framework, a new way of operating that better suits the totality of who they are. And I've got some questions that I've got lined up for you. But here's the first point that I want us to touch on. The C-suite soft life isn't about doing less. So let me ask you this. What has changed inside of leadership over the last 5 years? And why do you believe leaders like yourself are in need of a new framework?
Sure. So your audience probably doesn't know, but I have spent over 15 years in Fortune 50 organizations like Accenture as a management consultant, at Barclays as a VP of product, leading global teams, both technology teams and operational teams. So I've been up close, right? Even as a management consultant outside of corporate, I've worked very closely with the C-suite and executives and seeing what the day-to-day look like. And as an executive myself, been able to experience what the changes have been. So over the last few years, we've seen a combination of changes, right? Things are accelerating so quickly. The economy is changing, the economics of business has shifted. These market shifts have caused, let's say, less bandwidth, less time for people to see results, right? So if you're in a corporate seat, there is more pressure. You have to produce results faster. And if you're not producing results because market is shifting, consumer expectation is shifting, the technology is shifting, things are going more global, and there are a lot of other aspects to think about when you're looking at a global organization, right? So what this does is brings a lot of pressure into the executive suite where everyone is trying to drive results. And not only are they competing against external competitors, right? There's also internal competitiveness happening as well. So then this brings a lot. This can make it feel very toxic, dysfunctional at times. Instead of collaborating, people are competing. And there's that reaction, right? So then there's this feeling of a lack of loyalty, a lack of support. So you might be a tenured woman who've had a lot of influence and impact in the organization, who might be finding yourself impacted by just a shift of the wind, right? Sometimes the business is restructuring. Yes, AI is coming on board. There needs to be some changes, but you expect some more loyalty, some more support, and we're really not seeing that. Whereas tenure used to be 10 plus years in corporate, it has been consistently declining over the last few years to 5 years, 3 years. And for millennials and Gen Z, really 18 to 36 months. So the secret is out that there isn't any corporate loyalty and that we have to have other options. We have to literally have our bags packed that we're ready to leave if need be. So this is what has caused us to start thinking about what do we need to do. And the soft life in the C-suite is not about the absence of ambition or trying to leave the C-suite. It's about the absence of suffering, right? Understanding that we don't need to suffer or be in survival mode, even in these very difficult, sometimes environments. And the way that we can start to approach that and to maneuver that is to develop options for ourselves, is to develop strategies for ourselves on how we exist there, how we bring forth our own strengths and still drive results and still leverage our experience, but also have a backup plan, have option A, B, C that we know is there for us if we need to leave unexpectedly.
Marlon, you said so much. And the one thing that really stuck out to me is what you said. The soft life is not the absence of ambition. I was actually working with another client, maybe sometime last week, and we were reading an article from Forbes, I believe it was, where they're talking about the unbossing of Gen Z. And so Gen Z and maybe younger millennials have looked up that corporate ladder and they see how women like them in the C-suite are suffering. Truly,
Absolutely.
they've become this hardened, unfeeling version of themselves. And honestly, Marlon, you struck a chord with me because that's why I ended up leaving corporate. I looked into the C-suite. I was right on the verge of entering, and I decided I don't like who I have to become to get in there. I don't like who I would have to become to be successful there. Like you said, it turns from collaboration in the C-suite to competition. What I love about who you are and what you are building, kind of a safe space for executive women, is and why we bond is because women in the C-suite need a place of reprieve where they can grow and develop away from that eye of scrutiny, strategize, and then take that back in-house so that they can be a more effective leader.
There's another underlying exhaustion that is happening, right? So not only are we seeing these changes, but we're seeing an exhaustion and a lack of support for women. And so we need safe spaces to have conversations. We need additional strategies, both practically in approaching the C-suite and also internally for ourselves to have infrastructure.
This is good because we have a point here that I think I want to touch on very quickly. High performance and peace were never supposed to compete. I want to ask you this, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I think it's so important because we're right there.
Absolutely.
What was happening in your career after 15 years of working with the Accenture, working with the City, and all of these other Fortune 500 companies? What was happening for you internally, as much as you want to share, where you decided that you had to carve out a new leadership framework for yourself?
It is so interesting because in addition to building my corporate career, I was very passionate about yoga, very passionate about somatic practices, breath work. And I found that as the stress started to mount in some roles, right, as I got higher, as I had to be up at 2 a.m. with the tech team releasing code, right, because it's going live the next day, as I have to figure out and decode different cultural nuances within those spaces, I had to really lean on my tools, my spiritual practices, my somatic practices. And as I was talking to my friends who are having similar experiences, who are also highly ambitious, also Ivy League graduates, also in Fortune 50 organizations. They were seeing the similar things. But the thing is that you can't just quit. Every time you want to quit, you can't just quit. You have to build your resilience. You have to build your grit. You have to make a plan before you leave, right? Because leaving prematurely also has its downsides. And so having soft power in the C-suite is knowing how to be agile, knowing how to be adaptable, how to adapt your strategy, how to adapt your personal style. It requires a sense of awareness, a sense of knowing who you are, and also, to use some marketing and sales terms, we have to know how to package, position, and promote ourselves as leaders. We have to tell our own story. And those things don't come naturally if your family lineage wasn't always in these corporate environments, right?
That's good.
Right?
Let's talk about that right there, because
Mm-hmm.
I do have a large, and we saw it in this most recent cohort that you were a part of. I do have a large following of first generation corporate professionals, white collar professionals coming from the diaspora. And we've been taught, I mean, my father was in the military. So we come from, and
Mm-hmm.
my mom was in education. I come from a family, although we are not first gen, I come from a family where you go for the big thing. You keep grinding until you get to the top of the thing. You must be the
Absolutely.
best. But they
Yes.
never taught us how and when to turn that off. Now, in this day and age, what you're telling us, and what I hear you telling us, Marlyne, is that you don't necessarily have to turn off the ambition, but there is a way for you to kind of balance that out. Can you give us an example of, in your day-to-day life, when you were working and as you're working as a
Mm-hmm.
consultant and in these
Mm-hmm.
C-suites,
Mm-hmm.
can you give us one tip, one or two tips, one practice that you implement on a daily basis that brings you back down, level sets you before you go on to the next thing?
Absolutely. We talked about this, right? The core concept here is that your peace should not be at the cost of your ambition. You should not be focusing on going after ambition more than you are able to embody peace and groundedness. Because if we don't have that, it impacts our mindset, it impacts the cortisol in our body, it impacts our stress levels, causing us to gain weight, to become disconnected from ourselves, to become short tempered. If you have a family at home or even friends, you might start to withdraw from them. And that impacts your whole life. Now you're taking work home in a way that is detrimental to yourself and to your overall well-being, right? And
Yes.
so in order to stop that, right, because again, because of this pressure, because of this constant thinking and needing to react and to show up and do the best to prove, right? Prove, because if you're a high achiever, you can sometimes become an over functioner. You can overperform in the sense that you want to prove that you belong. You want to prove that you're not there just because, of some quota that the team is trying to meet, right? And we are also held to a higher standard. Let's just call it what it is. We're also held to a higher standard, not only in our delivery, but in how we deliver. So we don't want to be too harsh, too abrupt, too demanding, right? These are words that when others use them, they're assertive, they're a leader, they have initiative, but when the other person is saying it or someone else is saying it, people that look like you and I, it has a more negative connotation. So we have to be very strategic. We have to understand who our allies are. We have to have conversations in smaller groups before we go to a larger group. We have to leverage our intuitive knowing. So I'll give you two techniques here. One is to recognize that we are physical beings, right? We're spirits in a physical body, and our body is always communicating with our mind, the mind-body connection. So what we think can affect how we feel. If anyone here is familiar with Joe Dispenza's work, you can change how you feel in your body just by thought alone. Your mind doesn't know if something is real or not. So that's why visualization can be an important tool. That's why meditation is an important tool. That's why future visioning. These are all important tools that we can talk about and implement. But what that means is the way we're thinking about things impacts us. So
Yes.
when we're thinking thoughts, we have pressure, we have competition, we have something that's not going well. It's important to take the time to even bring awareness to your
Mm,
body, to bring
mm,
awareness to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. That alone is a very, very powerful thing to do, because what it does is it takes you out of the fight or flight response.
yeah.
It takes you out of reactivity. It lets you know, oh, I'm feeling this. I don't have to immediately run because there's no tiger behind me.
Yes.
So I have time to breathe, to
Yes.
feel into what's happening and relax, right? And then from that
Absolutely.
place, you can allow your intuition to come forward. You can allow yourself to start relaxing into the moment so you can know, I'm okay and I get to make a choice here.
That's
I'm okay
good.
and I get to make a choice here. So two things there is scanning your body, recognizing what the feeling is, and you don't need to immediately change that or fix it. You just need to recognize, I am angry. I am so angry right now. I am so enraged.
Yes.
And you can feel that and allow yourself to be present with that.
Yeah. This is good.
Just 2 or 3 minutes with that and breathing, you can start to say, oh, why do I need to be angry? You have enough space to start to analyze that situation instead of reacting, we get to go from our executive presence, our
Yeah.
executive grounding with a response. So I really like that because it just allows you to stay within yourself and to have peace within yourself and to go from a grounded space rather than a frantic space.
Yes, you've hit on a couple of points that I think is so important. I feel like a lot of women will resonate with this. You mentioned taking the space to feel, to scan your body. I remember, like, as a young to mid career professional, recognizing that my default kind of learned emotion was anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was
Mm-hmm.
filtering a lot of my life experience, especially in corporate America, through that initial filter of anger. But when I learned to do exactly what you just said there, Marlon, was to scan my body and ask. Now, therapy is one of the best investments. So there's that.
Right.
But to scan my body and learn that tool, it turns out that I wasn't angry most of the time. I was embarrassed. I didn't like the way someone
Mm-hmm.
talked to me. I felt disrespected. I was disappointed that I didn't get the opportunity, or I
Mm-hmm.
was passed over or overlooked or discredited. All of those things. That tool that you just mentioned, Marlon, is one of the single best tools that I've ever learned as a professional. Now, you said something else, and I had to take a note about this. You mentioned the signs of burnout or a woman who is over functioning in her role. I'll say this part of my personal story. So I ended up leaving corporate America for the first time. I resigned back in the end of 2021, going into 2022. And I say this all the time. There is no bigger glow up than after a woman leaves a high pressure, high performance burnout phase inside of corporate. I ended up losing about 30 or 40 pounds within the first 3 months,
Yes.
because,
Yes.
and that was the sign that I made the right decision, right? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that I needed, in hindsight, maybe I didn't need to leave corporate altogether. Maybe I just needed to
Mm-hmm.
find a healthier environment or create some of these boundaries inside of corporate that you're talking about. So then let's talk about, and we're going off of I'm moving away from our
Sure.
outline because we're
Absolutely.
flowing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me this. Um, what are some of the signs so a lot of women are being introduced to you. You are many things. You are a consultant, you're an executive, a founder, but you are also a wonderful coach and mentor for executives. What are the signs that you see? Let's say the top 3 signs that you see of a woman professional, a leader who is on the verge of burnout and maybe breakdown.
Mm. We know the signs. Okay, we do know the signs. It can come in the form of not sleeping well is one of the first things that happen because the
Yeah.
mind is overactive, right? We're always thinking about something, how to
Yep.
solve a problem. We're rehearsing a conversation that happened, right? The sleep is the number one thing. The next thing can be your food. Sometimes
Mm.
we eat our emotions.
Yes.
We start to look for snacks. We start to drink a little too much wine at night, right? We're looking for coping mechanisms. And then you might start having pains. You might have headaches. You might have backaches. Because backache, especially a lower backache, is a sign that you are not being supported, is a sign that you might be feeling like someone's going to stab you in the back. Okay, this is going a little on the woo side, but a backache can tell you that you are not fully supported. And it can be that you are not asking for support or support doesn't exist. And so that is where you need to activate your voice and ask for what you need. So it would look like, again, not sleeping well, your eating pattern is off, you might just generally don't feel well, a general sense of malaise, a general sense of numbing and checking out is also a sign of burnout, because we are meant to be, again, we are spiritual beings in a physical body. We are meant to feel. We are here to experience these emotions. And once we start cutting off those emotions, it means we're cut off from how we're thinking, how we're feeling. We're disconnected from ourselves. You might feel like, oh, I just don't need to react. I'm going to be fine. I just need to do my work and go home, blah, blah, blah. And that's why 70% of the American workforce is disengaged, right? Only 3 out of 10 people are engaged. What does engagement look like? Engagement is when you are emotionally involved and engaged in what you're doing. This leads to quiet quitting, right? Because you're like, I'm just going to do the bare minimum, collect my check and go home. That has a cost. Yes. That has a consequence, especially when you're an executive leader who has proven yourself, who has tenure, impact, influence over time, but you're not able to then reap what should feel like the rewards of that. So you have the achievement, you've hit the milestones, but you don't feel like you're purposeful. You don't feel like you're achieving something that has a meaning and fulfillment. That has a cost to you physically and mentally. And so you have to, again, not everyone needs to quit a job. Sometimes you need to change your patterns, right? That's one thing. You just mentioned an emotional pattern can be one thing. A reactive pattern can be another. So how do you react? How do you speak to people? Sometimes it's a skill, right? It's a skill gap. You are missing a skill and no one's telling you. No one's telling you. I can tell you, I can evaluate what is happening in your specific situation and help you to develop a strategy to impact that, right? Yes. Because people might have a perception of you and you don't know where that perception is coming from. So you can't change it. Yeah. So you can't change it, but then you feel like you're in a catch-22. You can't really ask. You don't really know what to do. You don't want to change because it's familiar. It's kind of working. Yep. These are signs of you need additional support. You need some safety. You need a secure place to have conversation with other women who are at your level, who get it, right? Definitely. So those are some of the signs of burnout, and the signs that you need to leave, you know, it varies, it's situational and contextual. And so I wouldn't want necessarily go into that in any depth here, but I would say if you feel like you have no support, if you feel like you've been hired into a role, but you don't have authority to make decisions in that role, but your objectives and KPIs are dependent on you making certain decisions and you're not in alignment, that could be a very clear sign that you're being pushed out. That could be a very clear sign that you're not valued. One thing that came to me when I was in some such situation is that I don't work just for money. Yes. Yes. Because money is good. Money is good. Okay. You do need to pay the bills. You do need to have security. Money is good, but it's the lowest form of energetic exchange. Anyone can give you money. But are you valued? Are you having impact? Are you respected? Yeah. Do you feel like the work you're doing is purposeful? These are higher forms. And it's interesting, Krista. So I was looking up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yes. And I got to find out that the hierarchy of needs and how it's presented in that triangle as a ladder wasn't really created by Maslow. He had a conceptual framework. In the 1960s, management consultants, like I was, had the smart idea to create this pyramid and this ladder that simplified his concept and also made it so that the corporate ladder is reflected in the Maslow's ladder. So what is at the bottom? Safety and security. That's just money. They're just going to pay you, and they're going to pay you less anyway. Yeah. But even then, in the 1960s, those corporations, because they're always about the bottom line profitability for the stakeholder, the shareholder, right? So they were looking at how can we pay people less, but
Yes.
give them those higher values of community, emotional belonging, self-actualization. They literally created that. So Maslow's psychological needs, that still stands. But when they brought it over to the corporate arena, that's where it became the corporate ladder. And the idea being that as you ascend on that ladder, you would get more perks. You would get
Mm.
more notoriety. You would get more respect.
You're saying something that I think is so important and probably why we are seeing so many disillusioned senior leaders because they did everything right, right? They got the
Exactly.
right, they went to the right institution, they got the degrees, multiple degrees, right? And they climbed this ladder and they still don't have more community. They still don't have the safety. The only amount of safety that they have, or the biggest amount of safety that they have, is that tangible paycheck that they get, every couple of weeks or whatever it
Exactly.
is, and it's detrimental over time. Now, you actually started diving into this next point, and I want you to go for it because it is so important. One thing that kind of is the crossover between what you do and what I do is that the executive is no longer just building a career, she's building an asset. Ownership is the key right now. And so you see Black women, women of color are starting the highest number of businesses. They're the highest number of new entrepreneurs. What does this mean? They are poised and ready to take over the creator economy, the reputation economy, building out their personal brand, creating 6 and 7 figure personal brands, and then digital assets, thought leadership, being the keynote speakers that these corporations are calling on over influencers, right? They're
Mhm.
looking, we don't work just for money. You said that right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what else do you see executives craving right now as it pertains to the soft life? What were you craving that made you say, I got to get out of here, or I'm building my own thing?
Well, we don't have any certainty, right? So we are craving optionality, because if you're in a space where you feel like you are trapped or stuck, you will feel like you're suffering. But if you see an option, if you see a new possible future for yourself, that reduces that suffering. You can now see this is a challenge and an obstacle for me to get to that place I'm going,
Yes.
right? And it
Yes.
might mean that you're shifting from going all the way to the top of that C suite, but you are still there. You still have your experience. You still have your results. You still have your resume, let's say, or your portfolio. And so you don't have to leave without that.
That's it.
That
That's it.
portfolio gives you options, whether
Yes.
it's for a new organization, whether it's for looking internally at that company for new ways to use your skill because the team and the leadership you're under is not working for you and you might
Yeah.
be best fit elsewhere. I see that we are looking for options. We're looking for community. We want to be with people who get it. We want to be in a support system. I was just at an event about 2 weeks ago and I was talking to my good friend Simone. I don't know if she's on here or maybe she'll watch the replay. And I just said 2 words and she got it. She just got it. Like, I don't have to over explain myself. And that just feels so good to know someone gets when you're facing microaggression. Someone gets how that shows up and what that feels like and how you might need to respond to that, right?
This is good.
Just knowing that in community is so important for us as women at this level. We want to know that what we've worked so hard for, even if we're not climbing that ladder all the way to the top, or even if we feel like it's a glass cliff, right?
Yes.
Because they brought us in and they told us we're going to be able to do all these things, but then there's no resource, there's no capital, there's no real support to get it done.
Yes.
Just knowing that someone is there to catch your hand, right? Just knowing that someone is there to hold you up emotionally or help you strategize or think about something different.
Yes.
And they get it. They get
Yeah.
what it is to be an executive in a multi-billion-dollar company and leading large-scale deals, global teams. They know what that pressure is, and they know how you are and how you can show up there. So definitely optionality, safety in
Yes.
community,
Yes.
and we're building assets. We're looking at what is our intelligence? What
Yes.
is uniquely us?
Yes.
And to be honest, you already have this, because as a woman with tenure and experience and impact, you already know how to package a position and promote yourself, because that's how you got there.
That's it.
It's
That's
not
it.
just about doing the work, even though the delivery is important, but how do you talk about that? And also, how do you talk about that as the market shifts? So that's another part
Yes.
of the work that I do with venture consulting and advisory. It's helping ventures to understand where they fit in the market. What's their unique value proposition? How do they go to market? How do they grow strategically through partnerships or co-branded deals, etc.? Similarly, you have to start to think of yourself as a product, your
Okay.
experience
Yep.
as a product. Obviously, yourself, you are completely invaluable and priceless. But as you go to
Hmm.
market, you have to think about how the market values you. So
This is
these are the
good.
things that I think we're looking at. Yeah.
This is good. You mentioned optionality. Options reduce panic. So, and even backing up, what I teach a lot on is that your job, your corporate position, start
Mm-hmm.
reframing it and positioning it as just one buyer of your expertise. You've already explained what that looks like, the optionality, but there is no more painful conversation that I have as a career and business coach than with a woman who waited too long to start building. And now she's being pushed out pretty aggressively and she's panicking. So let me ask you this, Marlon. What's the one thing that most or that women leaders should be doing internally in their job right now, building internally right now, that you often see them miss? And another way to ask this is, what are the projects, the results that they should be tracking to ensure that they can build this soft life beyond the C-suite, even right now?
Absolutely. The soft life is not just about our trinkets, right? Our bags, our jewelry, our cars, etc. It is really about having options and knowing your value, building equity within yourself.
That's
That
it.
is that is really what we're doing. We're looking at how do we showcase that the skills, the assets, the results that we have delivered are transferable somewhere else. And that's why I
Yes.
talk about packaging and positioning yourself. In order to do that, you have to take a critical look on what your career has been up to this point. What are the results that you have driven, and how is that valued on the open market? As
Yeah.
an independent consultant, if you were developing a portfolio career, how do you showcase that? How do you speak to that? Another thing we didn't even get to in the beginning was about AI and kind of the proliferation of information. So
Yeah.
everyone can say the thing, but have they actually delivered it? You
Yes.
need case studies. You need to
Yes.
be able to tell those stories in a very succinct way about how you drove value in one place or the other, even within. It's funny because even within the organization, we might think our work speaks for itself, but you never know behind closed doors who is taking the credit for
Credit.
the thing that you did.
Yes.
I've literally been in a room, right, with senior leadership where the CMO took credit for the work that I literally had to fight for my teams to get to do.
Wow.
I was leading a tech team and I had to fight with the product team to say this is the way we should do it and it's worth doing it,
Yeah.
reducing our application acquisition process. And the CMO was using that as a talking point for something that she had done. I
No.
found that absolutely amazing.
No.
So you never
Okay.
know. Yeah.
Similar story. And this was one of the reasons I knew I had to leave. I had a leader, a direct manager, who, when we would speak privately and we'd be strategizing for the team, I had a team of recruiters that were
Mhm.
reporting into me. We would speak privately, we'd be strategizing. He would tell me no when it was just one on one. That'll never work. It wouldn't work. I don't feel comfortable with that. Come up with something else. And I'll, of course, me being the diligent worker, of course, I'll
Right.
take it back. I'll chew on it some more. We get into the
Hmm.
next meeting and he would do this every single week. And he would present my ideas as his own. And I'm looking like, that's when the eye starts twitching and you're like, it was
You're
breakdown,
like,
breakdown.
John, we talked about something similar. last week. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I was telling you that it is based on XYZ, blah, 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 why we should do it this way. So I'm glad that you're bringing this to the larger group. You know, so sometimes you have to call them out, okay? You have to be strategic in how you do it, but sometimes you have to call them out.
You gave a beautiful example of why I adore you, because you, even in the pushback, some women will go full just aggressive anger and they'll come with the fire. But let's say something like that does happen. Can you give us some language in the moment? I mean, you gave us an example, but can you give us like a framework that we can take and use immediately? So inevitably, somebody's probably going through that right now.
I do this naturally because I feel like you have to kind of disarm them. You have to kind of do it in a way where it's jokingly.
Yeah.
But you're making a really sharp point, but you almost have to code it in jest or statistics or something outside of yourself. You know, like if you think about in the book Lean In, which I know has some controversy, but Sheryl Sandberg talks about when you're negotiating, you should mention like someone else. Like, I'm negotiating this salary because this is the first and the last time we'll be sitting across each other and on different sides of the aisle, or for the woman coming behind me, this is going to be important.
Yes.
Some of that might not resonate with us. But similarly, you don't want to make it about yourself. Like in that case, John is now bringing up your idea as if it's his. You're going to say, actually, John, the market tells us that this is a really important idea. This is a really important way to do it. Or because we know we've been talking to the marketing team, which I own that relationship. We know that they are doing this, and that. So therefore, it supports this idea. And that's what we were talking about last week when I brought this to you. So I'm glad that we were able to bring it to this wider group. I would be interested, and then you can even take it over, girl. You could be like, I would be interested in hearing how the tech team responds to this, because I know you were saying that this might not work because of XYZ, but I'd love to hear what Mark thinks about this, given that he's leading the tech team.
Yes.
Mark, do you have any thoughts? And Mark might be like, I don't know. And then you'll be like, it's okay, you know, because I think this should be an ongoing conversation. John, what do you think? Throw it back to John, because now John is still the leader. You're not taking away John's shine. You're just like helping him to showcase. Yes, and to remember why this idea was so important, right?
This is so, Marlyne, let's just take a quick pause, because you are getting so many reactions in the chat right now. The fiery, and so I'll read these out to you. First Right is saying, this is so good. You're getting the flame emojis. You're getting the fiery emojis.
Oh, good.
I think that was so brilliant. That right there. Most of us in the moment don't know how to navigate that, but you've given us some language, like you said, coded in jest, but then also touch on it, open it up to the broader conversation. Here's what I started doing it with that particular manager.
Yes, tell us.
I started workshopping the idea to the other stakeholders before I got in one-on-ones with him to say, the XYZ and so I already talked to blank from that team. They already are on board with this, so all we need is you. And I make them the odd person that if they don't say yes to this, maybe that was aggressive, but if they don't say yes to this, then the other teams are going to be disappointed, because what you're the odd person out.
That's good too. And again, it depends on the personality of who you're dealing with. For some of the Johns in my world, like that would feel to him like I'm pushing him in a corner, and he might actually retaliate. He would react to that, right? Because he might feel like, oh, now she's tying my hands. Like, I have to do this. I think it's really great to go and have the conversations in the background and get everyone kind of on board. Just kind of seeing, like, floating the idea. Do you think this would work? How could we make it work? And usually these people have the same reason why something won't work, because like we have patterns, they have patterns too. So you can notice their patterns. They also have patterns. So usually these people will have a similar reason to put things down, whether it's time or budget or just another priority, but they're not really saying what it is. You want to give them the opportunity to have to tell you what the real reason is why they're not doing it. Right?
That's good.
Yeah, because the real reason why it's not happening is the real way that you're gonna be able to develop a win-win. Because even though we're calling John out, because we know, he's trying to take a little bit of our credit, at the end of the day, that's not why we're there. We're not there to get credit. We're there to see the project through, to see the rest of the team members be successful, to see
Yes.
something to drive a result, because we can
Yes.
take that result with us, okay? We
Yes.
can't take credit and putting down John with us. We are going to take the result and the experience that we have in delivering something with us. That is the equity that we're building in these roles. So don't get
This is
caught
good.
up. Don't get caught up in one-upping him. Okay, it's not about the one-upping. It's not
It's
about
not about the one up,
backing him in a
ladies.
top corner. It's about driving a result. So when you put him in a position to explain or even hint at what the real problem is, you get the opportunity to now create a real win-win solution for what he's truly concerned about or what the true issue is, so that you can move forward. Or you'll know that you just need to take a completely different approach. You'll have enough information in your arsenal to develop a strategy that
Yeah.
can really work for you.
And
Yeah.
that a strategy that they can bring to someone like you, actually not someone
Yeah.
like you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
specifically,
Right.
because what you've just shown me is blowing my mind. And I wish we would have known each other back when I was still in corporate, but I'm so glad we know each other now, because I've
Yeah.
got some things, even in business, where I'm like, hey, Marlon, what do you think about this? So
Anytime.
and for those of you who are with us, stick with us to the end, because Marlon actually has an announcement that she's going to be announcing exclusively to you all. So stay with us. What I love about you, Marlon, and what you just showcased, and just who you are as a woman, when it comes to creating a soft life while you're in the C suite, is the difference between taking things by force versus taking things by finesse. There is a
Mhm.
very feminine way that you can operate without having to be a hammer to the nail all the time. Now, just kind of moving the conversation along just a little bit, I'm going to read
Yeah.
something for you, Marlon, and I want to get your thoughts
Sure.
afterwards. The total package woman is the future of executive leadership. Listen to this. For years, women were taught to compartmentalize, be smart, but don't be too
Mhm.
visible, be polished, but don't stand out too much, be accomplished, but don't monetize outside of the company. That's that company loyalty. That era is over. And that is actually how Marlon and I came together. If you remember, some of you may remember a viral video that I had talking about the rise of the total package woman, where I was doing a breakdown of Cannes Lions, post Cannes Lions this year, 2026, and the shift that we're seeing in the creator economy. They're looking for expert corporate C-suite creatives to truly act as brand ambassadors and strategists to inform the strategy behind some of these large market moves. When you
Mhm.
hear me talk about the total package woman, Marlon, what really resonated for you, and why is it so important for the work that you're doing with your women that you coach right now?
I loved when you talk about the total package woman. She has the beauty, she has the brilliance, she has the ability to convert her expertise into enterprise, meaning revenue, eyeballs for an organization. She's building a brand that also adds value to another brand. And
Yes.
this is really where we are eventually going. We're going to see this more and more important. And what about the total package is that if you know you're the total package, but you're not getting paid like the total package,
That's
right?
it.
Because you are
That's
being
it.
underpaid and undervalued, right? Not just money, but all the other factors we talked about. And especially if you feel repressed, you can't show up emotionally, you're having those early signs of burnout, right? Or you might be in burnout. You don't want to shrink. You want to expand your capacity to lead what is possible, right? Knowing that you're the total package, knowing how through strategy and tactics to build an ecosystem that is profitable is key, but also knowing how to not shrink because of what we've experienced, because of the disappointment, because we need to strengthen ourselves, rebuild our resilience. That is key to the work that I'm doing in sustainable leadership, right?
Yeah.
Because the modern executive is not shrinking because things get hard. She's expanding her purview so she can do something different. She can see those options.
This is good. Okay, perfect segue into this question. What do today's executives have permission to become that maybe they didn't even just 10 years ago?
exactly, with that article, we are seeing that being invisible is a greater risk than being visible and being judged.
Yes. Yes.
Because having the expertise and hiding it away in your resume does not help you to build the equity and the asset you need to move forward. Right? So the people who are more visible on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on all the other platforms where their audience is, they are going to be able to command more money and command more of a long-term asset building capacity just by showing up. So I think that answers your question.
That's perfect. Marlyn, I have so many questions for you because now I'm learning things. I'm like, okay, let me take some notes. When you look out into the market, because I absolutely trust and honor and value your perspective, you're just a master strategist. Aside from yourself as a Soft Life CEO founder, who else do you see out in the market that really embodies that C-suite soft life that you admire and that you
I really love what Bozoma St. John has done with her career as a CMO across multiple large organizations we're aware of. And she has just parlayed it into speaking, into a hero line, because she's known for her beautification with hair, her personality on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I know not everyone likes it. And that's the point. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon. If you don't have that friction, you're not interesting. You're not interesting, right?
Yes.
So not everyone love Bose. I love Bose for what she represents as an executive. And I remember actually the first time I came across her, she was laying on the beach in Malibu talking about Malibu Barbie as a CMO of Endeavor, one of those companies she was at the time. So I think she's doing it really well. Even though Emma Grady is in the media space and lifestyle space, so you kind of expect it more from her. I think with her book on her podcast platform, you see that she's now moving from the background of building brands like Skims and Good American into being the forefront and having those conversations about money and finances and being a woman in business. So I think she's also doing it really well. It's so interesting. The first time I saw Bose speak, I actually went to MIT at a tech conference. I was running a workshop, but I also was really interested in seeing Sheryl Sandberg in person. And she was going to be the keynote speaker. And then for some reason, Sheryl couldn't make it, and Bose was the speaker. And she was talking about her story. And it's so interesting. She didn't talk about being CMO and all of that. She talked about losing her husband to cancer. Some of you know her personal story. And having to research from that, having to build resilience, and how that transferred her mind, not from being so much in the grief of it, which obviously there was grief, but in recognizing that there has to be an urgency in our lives, right? And I think sometimes even when women are pivoting, I just feel this in my spirit to say, like, even when women are pivoting, whether they've been laid off, whether their career is no longer working, whether they're so disillusioned with what has happened, it is so important for us to get back up. It is important for us to get in community and to know that we can get back up, to know that we don't have to suffer alone. We can be in a challenging position and not have to suffer. Ladies, I want us to really tap into that. And we've seen it over and over again. These women are getting back up. You can get back up too. And so a lot of what we'll talk about in the masterclass, which I know we're getting to, is how to get back up, how to reclaim your personal story, the narrative, how to reclaim your time, even if you're still in those offices, how to manage specific situations, right? If you're there 3 months and you want to leave, you're looking at someone who wanted to leave at 3 months, but stayed 2 years. Okay. So there's ways that you can make it work for you and you can get back up. And I want to give you those tools, whether it's somatic tools, strategic tools, just awareness about who you are and the value that you bring to the workplace. It's so important.
This is so good. You mentioned one of my favorites, Bozoma St. John, and you and Bozoma are just models in my mind of what being a C-suite woman executive should be. The C-suite has become the backdrop to this wonderful life that you've built in its totality. Maybe it was the launching pad, but you're out and it really is the lifestyle of a life, a career well built. All right, before we get into talking about the masterclass and how people can get more of the one and only Marlyne Pierce, Rapid fire. You ready for it, Marlon?
Uh-oh, let's see.
Let's go for it. We're going to do this very quickly. One sentence answers. Very quick.
Okay.
Success for the modern mogul today is.
Success for the modern mogul is not sacrificing peace for power.
Excellent. C-suite soft life means.
C-suite soft life means maximum optionality to build a life that feels satisfying to you.
Oh, that's so good. Legacy means.
Legacy, that's such a big one. We didn't even get to touch on that too much. But legacy is what you leave behind based on how you lived your life. Your life. Your career is not your life. It supports your life. It takes up a lot of time in your life. But you have to recognize that your legacy is what you do with your life.
So good. Couple more. The biggest mistake woman executives are making is.
Shrinking in the face of pressure. We cannot shrink. We have to expand our capacity because that's why this pressure is here. It's to call you higher and into a more expansive view and a new level of strength within yourself.
Oh,
So we need to stop shrinking. Okay, stop shrinking, take up space, learn how to build the capacity for that.
this is good. Final question. One thing every female executive should start doing today to ensure she has a soft life beyond corporate.
Think about equity and legacy. What is the equity you're building with your corporate career? And what is the legacy that can allow you to leave? When you look at the intersection of that, you'll see opportunities, you'll see new ways to view yourself, and new ways to continue to build.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marlon, I couldn't have said it better myself. Everyone, Marlyne Pierce, the one and only. I feel so absolutely blessed and honored to know you and to have had this time with you. Now, I know there are people who are in the room with us and who are going to watch the replay who know that they need more of you. They need more of the Marlyne Pierce experience. What are you working on right now? How can they follow you? Tell us your handles and what else they can look forward to from you moving forward.
Right, so I'm simply Marlyne Pierce on LinkedIn. I'm here on Instagram at Modern Mogul HQ. And we have a masterclass coming up next week. And I would love for you to click on the link right here on the screen and join us. It's also in my bio, Modern Mogul HQ/mastery. In that masterclass, I want you to attend. If you are an executive leader, if you are aspirational to the C-suite, if you know that you are in corporate, but you are not ready to leave, or you could even be a founder, but you are looking at the board, you're looking at your advisors, you're looking at your partners in business, and you need executive level strategy on how to increase your capacity, how to operate within that environment without losing yourself, without losing your intuition, without having to harden your communication, without having to become someone that you no longer recognize. If you feel like you're in that position and you're ready to shift, come to the masterclass. Link in bio. I can't wait to have you there. We're going to dive deep on some of the strategies. We're going to talk about the soft power protocol. The soft power protocol is a set of steps you can take to evaluate where you are and what you should be doing, and then how you can reclaim your authority to build that equity and legacy that we all deserve. Regardless of what's happening around you, you get to build something important and special for yourself. And I'm going to give you the tools to do that. So
Oh,
join me.
Marlon, this is
Yeah,
so good. I cannot wait to be there in the masterclass with you all. You can click the link here. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. But thank you so much for your time, Marlon. This has been
absolutely.
excellent. This has taken on a life of its own. And maybe we even need to do a part two because this was just too rich. Thank you
So
for your
juicy.
time. I see someone say, oh, wow, soft power sounds like me. That's you. You should absolutely be there. So make sure you click on the link. Thank you all for joining us. And we will talk to you very soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.